Hi everybody, and welcome to Nikki Dolly 95's YouTube channel. It is Nikki Chanel here. So today is going to be our first ever YouTube video, and I want to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart and has been a big part of my life for about 5 years, or if you want to say 27 years since I was born, you could say that one too. Before we get started, this is going to be the first ever YouTube video that we make professionally. I have another one on there that Becca Pearl reviewed. Go give that one a like. That video is really old, and that was when I just started socially transitioning, so ignore that one basically. And so this channel I want to make is going to be a big one for mostly trans-related topics. This is going to be where I kind of elaborate on a lot of longer topics. So we're going to be talking about transition topics. We're going to be talking about why I started doing Instagram, why I started making an OnlyFans, and why I've just kind of become this from my old boy self. And so today is going to be the first one, and we are going to tackle the topic of transition. And mostly we're going to be focusing on why I decided to make the jump, or what were some of the moments in my younger days that really made me want to be a girl, why in middle school and high school I kind of started getting depressed over gender dysphoria, and then why in college and COVID did I finally say, okay, no, this is really what I want. And so we are going to get started. But first, I want to give a shout out that this is going to be the first video, so editing, kind of how everything's going to be going, video quality wise, we're still learning all this stuff. So just keep that in mind as we move forward, okay? And I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so let's talk about our first topic. We're gonna do 3 phases. So I was born on July 8th, 1995 to a wonderful group of parents in Central California, okay? My mother and sister were big shoppers. They still are. They dragged me to the mall many times when I was growing up. Like, I was pretty much at the mall every weekend shopping with them. And I was just kind of dragged along because why not? And so I would say I had my first case of gender dysphoria when I was about 6 years old. I remember I was standing at Mervyn's in Central California. I was standing there in Mervyn's. I think I was looking at like the intimate section, and I think I was looking at a white bra. I was like, wow, that is a really pretty thing. I'm like, oh, that's really pretty. And I think that was my first case of that. And then as the years kind of came by, kind of moved along, as I kind of grew up a little bit, I think I was about 9 years old when I first got into my sister's closet. And I think I wore just some just random black shirt, and I was like, oh, this is like a moment, this is like a great moment. And I looked so cute in it, and it was like, okay, this is starting, I was starting to kind of feel like, okay, maybe I did want to be a girl really early on. This is like age 9. But it really came to a head when I was 10 years old. We were picking out a Halloween costume so, I can go trick-or-treating around the neighborhood. And I remember my parents and I were driving down the road, and they were kind of giving me a lot of costume ideas. And I remember my sister said, well, do you want to dress as a girl? I was like, I wanted to say yes. 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 But it was just so hard to say yes. And I think I went as like the ugliest Batman costume ever after that. And honestly, those were the first instances, but it got a lot more intense as time went on though. Then we come to middle school and high school. This is the age at which I was like, okay, I was starting to feel a lot more. Like, I was starting to kind of grow up a little bit more, and like I developed male, because biologically male hair and all that stuff, and I absolutely hated it. Like, I would look at my arms, I would look at my legs and just see hair. I would look at my face and just see this black facial hair all across my body. And I remember there were days when I would just take that electric shaver and shave my face so hard it was red. My mom was like, so why is your face red? I'm like, oh, the shaver. And she's like, oh, okay, well, we'll buy you this like aftershave and all that stuff to prevent that. I'm like, well, that's not gonna help. But I didn't tell them. But I started getting in my sister's closet a lot more. Started getting in my sister's closet a lot more. Like, every chance I get. Every chance I had, like, I was using her makeup. It was Laura Geller makeup that they bought from QVC, and I was getting into it all the time. I got caught multiple times, and we had like family interventions and everything like that to see about why their son basically was trying to wear makeup. And I think it was about this age that my parents really started like noticing, okay, maybe our son is a little bit different. Maybe it is a little bit different, because I remember one day when we were driving back from the grocery store, I told my mom I wanted dirty blonde hair. Well, I got it just only 12 years later. And so that was, high school was rough. High school was really rough. I saw all the girls developing. I was super depressed. I hated myself. I hated my body. Like, honestly, I kind of wanted to kill myself at 17 over it, because it was a really hard time for me. And I was like, you know, I was also discovering social media, and I was seeing all these beautiful girls online. And I think I discovered Gigi Gorgeous around this time, and a couple of other trans girls like that. And I was just like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing? And it was really, really hard. But luckily, we had a family friend over, and he kind of lived with us for a while and all that stuff. But he was from San Francisco, so I used to talk to him all the time about, you know, what he did in San Francisco, who he saw and all that stuff. And he's like, Nikki, you would fit right in San Francisco. You would not be seen as weird or anything like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And so like I started dressing in front of him. He's like, wow, you make a really beautiful girl and all that stuff. I was like, well, thank you. And he told me the biggest thing that I've had ever since is that it doesn't matter what you look like, you will always be yourself. You'll just be dressed slightly different. I'm like, okay. And to me, that was like one of the things that I've held myself forever, is that yes, I am Miles, and yes, I am Nicole, but I'm the same person regardless of what I look like. Like, I still think the same, I still do everything the same. And that was like the big moment where I was like, okay, no, I don't want to kill myself, but maybe we should start looking into transitioning. And so, as you can see, we definitely did look into transitioning. Then we get into college. So I went from high school to college, you know, very traditional student. I was the only traditional student in my family, and I went to college. I also got my first job. My first job was at Macy's. It was at the receiving dock at Macy's. That was my first ever job. Very manual, kind of masculine job. There was women, but they were like tough women. My first manager was a woman. She was the most badass woman I've ever met in my life. And I'll always remember Donna from Macy's. But I remember my first paycheck. So my parents went on a vacation, and my first ever paycheck, I went over to Walmart and I bought Maybelline foundation and a bra. That was the first thing I ever bought with my paychecks. Besides like video game stuff. That was the first ever thing I ever bought with my first paycheck, was makeup. And oh my God, it looked like shit. That makeup looked like hell, but it was so freeing to be able to finally wear makeup. It was so freeing to be able to be myself in that regard. And that was probably one of the greatest moments of my life, was putting on that, I think it was like a powder foundation. I think I may still actually have it. I kept it just for memorabilia, but it was like such a great moment. But then college came around and I really developed male. I really developed male, and I absolutely hated it. But I was basically dressing all the time. I was like, okay, I want to be a drag queen. That was, to me, what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a drag queen, but like every time I was in drag, it just felt right. Like, I can't really describe it. It was like a euphoric moment. Like, whenever I was able to achieve like a really feminine look, not like caricature feminine, but like a really feminine look, it was like, wow, this is like, wow, I'm pretty, I'm attractive, I can actually be a girl. And so I think I made the decision about age 22 that I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna transition. But it was never the right time. It was never the right time to transition. And you know, I graduated college, I was working a good job, you know, I was kind of in the career beginnings and all that stuff. And then COVID-19 hit. I'm sure you probably heard of that thing. Lost my job, had to go on work comp, had to do that whole thing. And I remember because we were all quarantined, I was on a bike ride in where we lived, and I was just on a bike ride one day, and I was like, you know, Miles, you could die tomorrow. You could die tomorrow from some weird fucking disease from China. And what are you probably gonna regret the most when you're on that deathbed? And I'm not gonna die like this. And that was probably the biggest revealing moment of my life, and I think my life completely changed from there. I went from being this scared boy who wanted to be a girl to like, no, embrace it. Start doing it. And it was at that point I started growing out my hair. A year later I got an HRT, and ever since then I've loved my life. And so that has been March 18th, 2020 was the most important day of my life, along with March 31st, which is the day one of transition. So honestly, it's been great ever since. So what do I want you to get out of this video? Honestly, what I want you to get out of this video is that not everyone's transition is like an easy road. Like I had a lot of ups and down moments where I was like, okay, do I want to be a girl? Maybe not. Do I want to be a girl? Maybe not. And finally, it was a crazy world-changing moment that made me realize, yes, I do want to be a woman. Yes, I do want to be Nicole. And that was probably the greatest moment of my life, was when I realized that, yes, I do want to transition into a woman. I want to be female, and I want to look like a girl at all times. And so, honestly, it's been great. The job that I worked was super accepting of it. In fact, I still work there because they don't care what I look like. As long as I come in and do a good job, that's all they care about. And that was probably one of the best moments of my life, was finally deciding to transition. And so I made this video mostly for trans femmes like myself. Like, I wanted to kill myself over gender dysphoria. I hated my body with a complete passion. Like, I look back at those old boy photos and I'm like, okay, you know, it's kind of weird looking at them, but like, it's the main thing of like, wow. Like, I remember unhappy, crying. Like, there was one day I got out of work, I literally got in my car and screamed into the steering wheel and punched the steering wheel so hard I almost broke it, because of that I wasn't this. And so what I want you to get out of this is that transitioning was the thing that made me happy finally. And it has been the thing that has allowed me to be myself and to grow as a human being and be confident in myself. If I wanted to transition, I would have been just this depressed boy going through life. Like, I don't think I ever would have married, but like, it would have been a horrible, horrible existence, hiding myself from everyone, not afraid to be myself. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you right now, and this is coming from a trans woman who has been on HRT for 26 months and been transitioning since March 18th, 2020. So what, that's 38 months ago, is that the worst part about this whole process was finally deciding to do it. That was the worst part about this whole process. And once I made that decision, everything became better from there. So I hope you know, transitioning saved my life, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if, you know, read all the comments in below, subscribe, do all the normal YouTube stuff, because like, we're gonna make more of these things. If this does well, we're definitely gonna make more of them. And so I hope you all have a wonderful day, loves.